Well, welcome everybody to the Sports Wrap. Here it is, almost the end of January. February is right there. That means that cold weather we had this morning, George, pretty soon will be all passe, right? It'll all be done.
It will. When is it? The end of the month? Is that when spring training starts?
Well, yeah, pretty close.
Kinda.
Although, if you've been reading the newspaper, they don't know what's going to happen, like in Arizona and all these places, whether they're going to let it happen or what. So, hey.
Well, I'm hoping, Tim, that somewhere along the line they start poking enough people with these needles to get some immunity and get some. I can't believe that they can go play a basketball season or an abbreviated one, and stay relatively, able to at least complete the season. And so, somewhere along the line, there's some things to learn from this, and I hope that we can get something going. I'd hate to go through a whole lack of a baseball season.
Yeah, I would suspect they'll get something figured out, and we'll go from there. But we'll have to see what they get decided. They're still deciding on the rules for this coming year. I mean, they just decided whether they were going to have the DH in the NL or not, and I'm just like, oh my goodness. And of course, as long as we're on baseball, we might as well talk baseball.
Hey, I'll start right there.
How about the Twins? What? I was shocked.
Which one? Simmons?
About they signed Andrelton Simmons from the Angels as a free agent.
Yeah.
$10.5 million for a year. And that means Jorge Polanco is going to get moved to second base, which means my main man, Luis Ariz, is going to get moved to Marwin Gonzalez's spot where he's going to be playing
every place.
Everywhere.
They're gonna want to keep him in the lineup. His bat is really good.
And I see Polanco. Are they going back to last October when he peed down his leg with that throw to second base? Is that still playing in their minds? I don't know. I was shocked. I didn't see this coming. Us finding somebody for Jorge at short, but. And of course, we got Royce Lewis, who we drafted #1 overall, 3 years ago, probably now, 2 years ago. And he's supposed to be the savior. So they only did sign this Simmons guy for 1 year, hoping that Lewis will be ready the following year, and then they can.
Well, tell me about these two pitchers, Robles and Happ.
I can't tell you much. Robles, I know, had it and lost it during the season last year. Somewhere along the way, the old wing went out the door, and he lost all his velocity. And the Twins took a flyer on hoping that he can regain that form. And if he does, it's a great pickup. If he doesn't, I really don't think it's a big deal to go out and find somebody else to do it. So Happ, again, who knows where he'll be at. Hopefully he also can regain his form, because that's the thing about these pitchers or anybody that get put out there. Everybody's thinking, well, they've lost a step, or they've lost a few miles an hour on their fastball, or they can't throw the curveball anymore, or they can't hit the curveball. And so something's there, and you hope that you bring them in, and all of a sudden they regain the magic, and that their name's not Chuck Knobloch II, and they never get rid of the yips.
Oh, I think of my friend Homer Bailey last year. Pitched one game, the arm went, never saw him again.
Yeah.
And it's but I'll tell you, this is going to be easily the most expensive infield the Twins have ever put out. A lot of money on that infield. I hope defensively the 4 Gold Gloves come out, because if that's what they're doing it for, is sealing up the. But I never thought that defensively the Twins were all that bad.
No. I think they knew they had to get rid of Marwin Gonzalez. He had signed for 2 years out of Houston. And I think he did okay. But they looked at Luis Ariz and said, you know what? He can be that guy, okay, for less money. Probably going to hit for a better average than Marwin did. And we can play him in all the same places. So let's go pick up a shortstop. Let's put Polanco back to second base, which might be his better position.
Yeah, it might be, yeah.
And see what happens. So you got Donaldson at third. So now Ariz comes in and shuffles around and moves out to the left field right field every once in a while. and gives the Twins some options. And
Well, they said something about
Polanco.
Polanco.
Right now, it looks pretty
Polanco
smart.
wouldn't have that long a throw to first. So, and maybe they see him stretching it at short. And,
Yep. And so like you said, I kudos. I said, didn't see it coming, but I'm willing to give it a whirl. So let's move to the NFL because that's what everybody wants to talk about.
It's too early. We're not through football yet.
So let's talk about the NFC first. I know you're not surprised like Tim was.
Oh no, I just knew that Brady was on to something, and I didn't know at the time that Antoine Winfield wasn't going to play. But I knew that Tyler Johnson was going to, and I saw one great play of Tyler Johnson, and that's when Kevin King grabbed him by the jersey and pulled it about 3 feet out, and this poor referee looked at that and thought, either I'm seeing things or I got to drop the flag, and they did.
And they did.
That gave them the first down, and they were able to close it up. Also, I have no idea what they were thinking for kicking that stupid field goal.
How many minutes do you want to discuss this thing? Because
I know I have seen some coaching errors, and I just take a look and I thought, how many tens of thousands of guys like me looked at that and said, "What are you people doing?"
I'm going to give LaFleur some thought. I'm going to give him a pat on the back. Here, let me explain why. Because then I'm going to gouge the living bejeebers out of him.
Yeah.
The ESPN has their winning index percentage thingamajigger. Okay.
Yeah.
Their win percentage before kicking the field goal was 10%. Their winning percentage after kicking the field goal was 9.5%. So essentially, by kicking the field goal, they did no change in whether they were going to win or lose. So kicking the field goal was 6 of one, almost a half dozen another, if you look at it that way. But if you look at it like we're looking at it, and I know thousands and millions of people, of football fans out there are looking at it this way, you're sitting at the, 8-yard line, 9-yard line, and you've got 2 downs to get it. You've got possibly the best quarterback in the NFL, possibly, who was not having a very good day. Let's say that. It wasn't a typical Aaron Rodgers day, but give Tampa Bay's defense credit for that as well. So, yeah, I would guess that Aaron Rodgers was thinking on 3rd down, as he scrambled through and found that crease and started to roll to his right, and I'm screaming at the TV, "Run, run!" And he of course, couldn't see probably exactly what I could see. So he decided he was going to try to tuck one in because maybe he gets a pass interference call. Maybe he gets a catch. And he's thinking, I've got 4th down still to make it. So why try to force it in too hard and get it picked off and we lose the football game? So, yeah, everybody's yelling at the TV on Monday and whatever else. He should have run. He should have run. Fine. But the fact that he didn't run should have told LaFleur that, all right, he made a smart play. He didn't do something dumb. He didn't try to force it in where he wasn't supposed to. He was living to play another down. So your defense hadn't – I don't want to see their defense have played bad, but they hadn't
played that poorly. The secondary screwed up.
So did they think, and I guess with 4 timeouts, with the 2-minute warning and 3 timeouts, you figured that maybe you could get a stop. And I get that, but here's the problem with that thought. And here's where I'm going, folks. Long story. Tampa's going to punt the ball, and they're going to put you down inside your 20-yard line, 25-yard line. So you got to go like 75 yards. You still got to get a touchdown. It's not like you only had to get a field goal. If they only needed a field goal after kicking the field goal, great idea. I love it because all you got to do is get to the 38-yard line and you give yourself a chance to win it. And, of course, everybody wanted to try to say, well, they still would have had to make the 2-point conversion. Oh, my God, with Aaron Rodgers from the 2-yard line, I
take those
even
odds.
though we screwed one up earlier in the game.
Yeah.
Did they go for 2 too early? When they went for 2 the first time at the end of the third quarter, should they have kicked the extra point?
Probably.
Well, I bring up Uncle Paul on this show every week. He is a proponent of going for 2 points almost all the time. Why even try to kick an extra point ever? Just go for 2. Even if you make it 50% of the time, you still, and from the 2-yard line, you should be able to make it 50% of the time in the NFL. So, of course, soon as Green Bay scores the touchdown, here comes the text message. Should they go for 2? And I'm like, well, yeah. And he's like, I don't think they should have. And I'm like, Paul, what are you saying to me? You always go for 2. Well, I'm not in this case. And I'm just like, no, I think the go for 2 was right. Not going for the touchdown there when you had a chance to tie it. And can I take myself back a little bit? My worry was for Green Bay was they were going to score 2 soon and Tampa Bay was going to go down and kick a field goal. Even if they made the touchdown, got the 2, they were going to tie it at 31, and Tampa was still going to go down and kick a field goal and win it 34-31. So I don't know. George, I've talked too much about it. You go ahead.
No, I'll tell you what, they could have done this a couple of different ways, but the fact of it is that Tampa Bay's defensive line played very well. They didn't get the kind of protection that Rodgers is used to, and I think that forced the play, and I think that forced some of his passes. He didn't have, like you say, a particularly good day. On the other hand, you're also right to say if I had to have a quarterback with the ball in his hand to get me what I need, it would probably go to Rodgers, and that's not taking anything away from the other guy.
What's that guy's name again? I almost forget. I haven't heard him. That he's only gone to 10 Super Bowls and whatever else. So,
well, that's what I says. He'd never lost a conference championship game. And it's just it's amazing what's how well they played. Now let's take a look at the other one, the AFC one, and
Well, before we do that, I want to make one more point. How many interceptions did Tom Brady throw?
2, 3.
3, I believe, on 3 consecutive possessions in the second half.
Yeah.
Now nobody should win in the NFL when a quarterback throws 3 interceptions. Rarely, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it just doesn't happen very often. And somebody put out on the Twitter, if Kirk Cousins would have thrown 3 interceptions in the game, the Vikings would have lost by 25 points. Is that true or not true? Because 3 turnovers. Somehow Tampa turned the ball over 3 times and still won the football game against, some people are still arguing, could be the best team in the NFC next year already. And I'm kind of like, what how? It's so right that if the Vikings would throw 3 interceptions, they'd lose by double digits. Yet somehow Tampa Bay pulls it out. It just
and also keep in mind they beat up the Pack 38-10 early. They believed they could win this game in Green Bay in spite of the cold, in spite of all the rest of this stuff. And my friend, Mr. Sue, he was his nasty self.
Yeah.
He was all over that backfield, and they're ready to play. They're going to give Kansas City a pretty good game,
especially because they're playing at home.
That's because they're playing at home. Yeah, first time this ever happened. The Vikings had a shot at that a few years ago. Didn't quite make it. Mr. by 1.
Mr. by 1.
The other game,
yeah.
I'll tell you, Kansas City's defense just kind of, kicked the Bills out of town, and dominated the game, and I was really kind of disappointed.
Well, I got a lot of people. Whatever, you got to remember the Bills were up 9-0, and then Kansas City just did what Kansas City does. They took Stephon Diggs basically out of the game. He caught that one long pass. I think he ended up with 80 yards receiving, which for the season is, how do I want to say this? Was pedestrian for what he did with the rest of the season. which goes back to tell you that Stephon Diggs disappears in big games. I'm going to say it right here. Okay, he ticked me off when he played for the Vikings because he didn't show up in big games. Yeah, he caught the miracle. Okay, it was a miracle. That's why. Okay, big games, Stephon didn't show up. When the chips were down, he didn't show up and play. And Kansas City knew that they needed to take him away because he's an emotional leader. When he starts getting things going, everything else gets going. Same thing with Kansas City. When Tyreek Hill gets going, Kansas City gets going. And Hill was able to make some catches. Kelsey was all over the place. And Kansas City rolled. And I agree with you, George. The Super Bowl is going to be a good one. We got a pretty good one last year with San Francisco and Kansas City. When Kansas City scored, twice in the last 5 minutes or whatever it was. I anticipate something very, very similar.
Well, we'll get further analysis, except that this is the GOAT versus the kid. The GOAT is the
I heard that somebody say that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. As much as it pains me about Tom Brady, I mean, the fact that he came in there and they pulled it off, I thought they'd be okay. I thought they would win 10 games, 11 games like they did.
Right.
But to think that they would be heading to the Super Bowl, that I didn't expect. And so, give Tampa credit. I don't know if Bruce Arians needs much credit for doing it because, of course, him and Tom were at each other's throat for the first 2 months of the season.
They're happy as lovers now. It's it's amazing what winning does there, Coach.
Yeah. Oh, winning solves a lot of ills.
It takes a lot of problems away. Yeah, that's right.
So you want to give us an early pick on the Super Bowl, or?
Well, we'll talk about it more next week. But
yeah, absolutely. Oh, we're going to talk about it next week.
Yeah. What?
We're going to talk about it next week.
But I was mostly impressed by Kansas City's defense, and the fact that I was mostly impressed by Tampa Bay's defense as well. You know that these guys can sling, and you're going to get one of those incredible performances from Harry Potter. But it's
how'd you like that underhand shovel pass?
Yeah, what
like that?
I mean.
I'd like to call that sexy if I can, if that doesn't offend everybody at home. I know it offends my daughters when I use that word, but to me,
if any one of your quarterbacks would have ever done that, you would have. Well, I'm not sure what you would have said.
But see, here's the thing about what Kansas City does, and what I like about what Eric Bieniemy does, and why. Man, if that guy isn't a head coach next year, NFL should. Yeah. Anywho. The thing with Bieniemy, he goes, we should draw this play up, but how can I make it even jazzier? How can I make it slicker? How can I make it so people go, wow, look at that. Hey, instead of having him do it like the old style, whoops, let me get it out here so you can see it, the old style, let's do it a little softball toss underneath. I don't think Mahomes just made that up. I think that was the way the play was.
I think so too. And also, the amount of motion that they have in their offense.
Oh, it's crazy.
I mean, it's insane. And it looks like a gaggle of worms back there crawling around.
And you know who it reminded me of?
Huh.
It reminded me of Alabama in the national championship game.
They were all over.
They had
too.
Everybody going this way.
Way.
Bring a guy over here, set him, bring this guy in motion, bring him in, run him right back out to where he came from. Those two things parallel when I watched the game on Sunday. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like watching Alabama 3 weeks ago.
Well, and the linebackers try to keep up and they can't. You flow back and forth like that, their coverage gets so confused. They can't keep up. And I'm confused watching it. It must be incredible on the field.
So you're not going to give me a pick, an early pick?
I think Kansas City's going to win. I think
you know how hard it is to repeat.
Huh?
Do you know how hard it is to repeat? Anyway, I'm going with you, George.
Really good football team.
Right now, I'm going with Kansas City. What I got to think back to what they had a stat during the game that Kansas City hadn't punted in a playoff game in like 5 games or something, going like all the way back before the Super Bowl, before I mean, it was some crazy number, and they had to punt like in the fourth quarter or something against Buffalo, and it had been like some amazing stretch, and I'm just kind of like, that doesn't.
What do you call? Call out the punter. Hey, get the punter. Who's the punter?
Where is he? He stayed home today. We didn't really need him. So.
Yeah, loneliest guy on the team.
One more NFL note, if I can.
Sure.
Stafford leaving Detroit.
Well, that's what they say, but his wife says no.
We know who speaks, correct?
Their house is up for sale. I did read that.
Okay.
But I'll tell you, he's a very fine quarterback, and he's going to be playing football somewhere. I would have liked to have seen him. I would have liked to have seen Detroit put together a team. They've had all these years to do it, and they just haven't been able to do it. I don't know why.
Did you see? Did you see what their coach said about the kneecaps? That when we come out next season, we are going to be a team of, I don't remember the word he used, tenacity. And when you come and knock us down, we're going to come up, and we're going to bite off one of your kneecaps. Then we're going to go again, and if you knock us down, we're going to come up and we're going to take off your other kneecap. And if you knock us down again, we're going to come up and we're going to, I don't remember what else he said. But what I'm trying to tell you folks, in no uncertain terms, he says, we're going to come with an edge. We're going to come with a nastiness. We're not going to lay down and die. We're not going to quit. We're not going to whatever. And I'm kind of like, wow, that almost sounds like the old New Orleans Saints.
You get that every day. You feel like rowing the boat. I mean,
so we'll see. Stafford could he end up in Indy where Phillip Rivers just retired?
I think that's a likely spot. Well, he fits the team well. And
how about we? I love Kirk, but how about we switch? How about Kirk go over there? Hey, let's really have fun with this. Let's have Rodgers come to Minnesota, Stafford go to Green Bay, and Kirk Cousins end up in Detroit, and we'll see what the heck happens.
Yeah, we'll see what the heck happens. I'm not sure who you're going to convince to do that.
Well, after they watch this show, George, they're going to start thinking about it.
They'll go to bed tonight thinking, oh, what was that?
That's a great idea. We need to start thinking about that. Well, anything else football
picking on my friend Cousins
that we need to chat about?
Well, yeah, I got lots of things on my
football though. Anything else football?
No, football's
right.
Much.
Go ahead, let her rip. What's next? I'm ready. I got a list.
Okay, I sat around and I lollygagged about our Minnesota Gophers facing their perennial rivals, Iowa Hawkeyes, in wrestling. It didn't turn out so good. They wrestled 10 matches, and Iowa snuck out 9 of them. And they won 35-4, and that's only because my friend Gable Stevenson was able to pinch out a point at the end, and he took out the number 3 guy in the nation.
And
I'll tell you what, match.
I was at the hockey game on Friday night, the girls' hockey game on the radio, KCC TV, and I'm like, this game is taking forever. Matter of fact, it was 5-0 after the second period. I'm like, we're going to get into running time. I'm going to get home and see like 3-4 matches. Well, by the time I walked in, Gable was already at the end of the second period, and he was only up 5-2. And I'm like,
yeah,
what the heck is going on? Well, then the third period, he had the boy wore down, and he took him to the cleaners.
Yeah, he did. He really smelled blood and went after those lower legs, let him go, and then he attacked and he attacked and he attacked. It's one thing to have a upper body tie with somebody that big and that strong, but when they're attacking your ankles, they can become very annoying because you think they might break one. And it's but he was just going after those lower legs. And and it's one of those things where what the heck was the guy's name? Cassiopeia.
Yeah, the other heavyweight. Yep.
Cassiopeia, and they're very good heavyweights. These are some of the best in the country right now. It's a good thing we have a closer because when you take a look at Spencer Lee at 125 pounds, he was, in my estimation, has to be up there with the finest collegiate wrestler in the country right now. He just took Patrick McKee apart, pinned him with in a minute and 12 seconds, and McKee is number 9 rated wrestler in the country. So when this came up, and somebody asked Gable Steveson about him, because he knows Spencer Lee, they trained together for the Olympics, and Gable says, Spencer Lee, you don't want any part of Spencer Lee. I don't want any part of Spencer Lee. Spencer Lee is just a dynamo, and when you take a look at at the team, they're the way they're ranked down here. It's Lee is 5. Austin DeSantos is rated 5th. Jaden Ironman is rated number 1. Max Miriam is rated 6th. It goes right down the list, and
they're all in the top 10.
Yes, everybody is rated in the top 10. So I'm not sure just what Penn State has for these guys. Big Ten tournament should just be a dandy.
Well, and the thing about Penn State, you know that they're getting it loaded up. You know that they've got something, but you also know that at 157, 165, 174, that they finally had to give up their reign unless they've got somebody coming back to fill in. But Iowa looks unbeatable at this point, and like I said, think about this: Maryland got beat by Minnesota 48-0, and the Gophers got beat 35-4. Now I know you can't translate that out, but how far ahead of Maryland is Iowa if they're that far ahead of the Gophers? I mean, holy smokes!
Yeah, and they are, and the Gophers they wrestle. They're out at Rutgers, and they're going to wrestle Rutgers and Purdue, and Piscataway. I had to throw that in, New Jersey. And so we'll see what happens, because Purdue is probably a pretty good wrestling team, and Rutgers is down towards the bottom of the list. So maybe they can pick up a few. But, Austin DeSanto for Iowa beat my friend Boo Drayden. And I got a message from you saying, ouch, he just exploded into him. And Boo he's over 6 feet tall. He's 133 pounds. And so he uses that to his advantage. Well, Austin DeSanto didn't see it as one, took him right from the waist and started beating him with his tall legs, long legs. So, I was really impressed with Iowa Hawkeyes. They've got a very good team. And I think the Gophers do too. It's just, the Brown boys, they've done well down there. They have the legacy, they have the equipment, they have the people. So, they're doing quite well.
Want to stay with the Gopher and move on to men's basketball?
We can.
Speaking of people that got their butts whooped over,
I talked to
the Guru.
Guru.
Yeah.
I said, Guru, a little disappointing. He says, well, because last week we were sitting around here talking about the advantage of playing in the barn and how it's really difficult. So you bring in one of the top teams in the nation like Michigan, and you beat them up pretty good, and you take a look at that and you just say, okay, Maryland, you're not that hot. You can come on in there. And the first thing Maryland did was shut down the perimeter. They got Liam Robbins in foul trouble, and then just kind of took them apart. But the Gophers have to simply shoot better.
And that's easier said than done, George.
Well, Marcus Carr had 4 for 12 or something. As a team, the rest of the team shot 3 for 17 from threes. You can't win that way in the Big Ten. You just can't do that.
Here's what bugs me about the outside shooting that I see with the Gophers, and I've talked about this many times. But when you shoot the ball, you've got to shoot the ball so that it's inside of the rim. When the ball hits the outside of the rim and gets these long rebounds because you are shooting this way and the ball ends up way over here. Come on. I'm 51 years old. I probably haven't shot a basket in a year. I don't know. Last time I picked up a basketball and shot a basket at a regulation hoop in a gym. At least I know when I shoot the ball, it may be short, it may be long, but it ain't going to be outside of the rim. I'm stunned. These guys are college athletes. They play basketball for like a living almost. And they shoot threes and they can't even get it inside the rim? Come on.
No, and they just shot poorly. They weren't even close sometimes. And it's just, and hey, they were all taking shots. They all looked to be pretty good shots. But I have to admit that Maryland, they had the perimeter really well covered, and they just kept on picking. And of course, they got like a 17-3 lead in the first quarter.
And that's what takes, it was 18-3, and I'm sitting, when is Bonehead going to call a timeout? Here I am. I'm telling how good Patino was a couple weeks ago because he out-coached McCaffrey from Iowa, and then you act like a bonehead because we're going to play out of it. We're going to play out of it. No. You tried to play yourself out of it, and you got your butt whooped is what happened. So,
well,
anyway.
And on top of that, the Gophers, they have yet to get a road win.
Hey, maybe Saturday at Purdue, huh?
And they got well, what do you got? You got Purdue and Rutgers back to back. So you got an opportunity to pick up a road win, so to speak. But you better be able to pick it up.
1 out of 2 would be nice.
1 out of 2 would be nice.
How about the women?
And I will be watching the big boys go in the paint there because there's, in the old days, we had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who was a 7-footer, and there might have been 1 or 2, Will Chamberlain. So now every basketball team has a 7-footer or a 6'10" or a 6'11". These kids are tall and they're very well equipped to play the game. So, I want to just see Robbins stay out of foul trouble, and not why he was out in the perimeter trying to defend is way beyond me anyway. Keep his butt near the paint and because he is not a 4-man, he's not a 3-man. He is a center, I think.
Unless when he's shooting the basketball.
Yeah.
And he can be a whatever he wants to be.
He's got a nice shot out there, doesn't he?
How about the women's basketball team for the Gophers? Did you get a chance to watch any of that on Monday night?
Well, actually, I have. And the other day, they were they beat Penn State 85-76, and in the middle of the fourth quarter or the middle of the second half, Lindsey Whalen went a little bonkers on these kids and started to ruffle some feathers. And
they responded.
They responded, and once in a while this happens. Yeah. I
can't go to the well too often on that, I don't think. That's the only problem with it. If you freak out on them all the time, it loses the effectiveness. I know.
Well, I know you do, but you can't do it that often. But, I did it a couple of times when I was...
I'm sure you did, yes.
I chewed out my basketball team, or it was a varsity team. The referees were in the next room, and at the end of the chewing out, I come walking out storming. I was mad, and I slammed the door and come walking out, and the guy says, when I retire, I want you to speak at my retirement. That was the best halftime speech I ever heard. So if you use some creativity, the kids will remember, and at the end of the game, one of the most beautiful girls we ever had over this is, "Oh, coach, maybe you should get mad at us more often." Yes, well, I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Yeah, good win for the Gopher women on the road. They haven't had a lot of wins, so every one of them is crucial. So take.
They got Purdue tomorrow at 4 p.m, which is a good time. So
for those of us that don't work, you mean?
Well, I forgot that. That work thing can really get in the way of a good time.
Really get in the way. Well, if some of us, have like a second job, so to speak, and so that can ruffle the feathers as well. So,
and I also want to make mention of the Gophers women volleyball. They started off, they're 2-0. They're going to pick up right where they left off. I think they're rated number 5th or 6th or 7th right now in the nation, and I'm looking forward. Now there's some serious athletes on that volleyball team, and they are fun to watch. So
they're on Friday night. Here's my dilemma, George. They're on Friday night at 7:30. The Bronco boys basketball team plays at home against MIB, who has Asher. Why can I not think of his last name right now? How can I screw up? He's the Zubich.
Mm-hmm.
He's the quarterback on the team, and essentially when he dribbles the ball across half court, he's he's open. He's ready to shoot. I think last year, as a ninth grader, I think he scored in like over 40 points like 3 times last year. So
Wow.
I would really like to watch him. Thankfully, the Gophers are on BTN and the Broncos are on Channel 7. So I can just set up both TVs if I don't want to go live and go to the game. And I can watch both at the same time, which might be a good Friday night. And if George, if this happened, that would be okay too.
I know. I have a beer after supper and take a nice nap.
I have to admit that during the AFC Championship, the AFC Championship game on Sunday, about midway through the second quarter, I said, you know what? I need a little nap. So I did, and woke up after halftime, and all right, let's watch the second half. So it worked out real well.
You're finding what middle age will do for you.
Gopher volleyball is at Maryland. They got a pair of games out there. So the game on Friday is on BTN. The one on Saturday is not. So I'm looking forward to watching the Gopher volleyball.
I am too.
Well, let's talk college hockey for a moment.
Yes, I wanted to ask you.
Bulldogs got a nice sweep over Western Michigan, who had just swept St. Cloud State the week before. So we'll take that. They played well. They played both goaltenders. Both of them looked really nice. So I was very pleased with the way the Gophers looked or the Bulldogs looked. I'm thinking about the Gophers next, and of course the Gophers absolutely freight trained Arizona State, which I hope is not a big surprise to everybody. But they scored 10 goals one game, and I don't know what they scored.
11 in another. It was just, you got to wonder what the competition's about there.
Yeah. And
how they come to schedule such strong competition. No, but you take a look at, and you're looking at now Northern Conference, North Dakota, St. Cloud State, Nebraska, Omaha, Colorado Colleges, UMD. That is one strong conference right now.
Every weekend.
Yeah, no, that is one strong conference, and they're bringing good college hockey in. Hey, we'll see what happens on that. But
hey, and the Dogs play at Miami on Friday, so now I need 3 TVs. I better get a computer going.
Well, you got don't forget you have your phone.
I've got my phone and I got a laptop, so I can have 4 things going at one time. You think I can handle it?
Yeah, you probably can, but somebody's going to say that you're strange and need some help. So I just thought that I'd tack that on.
You're talking about my wife again?
Yes, I am. I have one too.
Yeah. Well, how about you want to talk about the Wild or the Timberwolves at all?
Yeah, well, actually, I watched a little bit of the Timberwolves, and I watched them play New Orleans.
Okay.
And
your good friend Zion Williams.
And they beat them up.
They did.
Yeah.
And then who was that guy that played for the Timberwolves? And they traded him to Golden State. And
no, that wasn't a good deal. Because
you probably read the Star Tribune today. I read the Star Tribune today. They're telling them, we're paying you max money, but we don't expect max money performance. And I'm like, what? What? You're paying this guy $32 million a year, and you're like, well, if you play like you may only make 18, we'll be okay with that. And I'm kind of like, well, I guess if that's only what you can get out of them, then that's what you can get out of them. But yeah, Andrew Wiggins, it was fun while it lasted. You were a great college player. You're a mediocre NBA player, maybe a little above average, but you are no star.
No, and that's the way I'll tell you, when you do the final evaluation, about 90% of the people that come out of college, great college basketball players. I mean, I remember watching a guy named Rick Mount score 48 points against the Gophers, and he was too slow to play in the NBA. He didn't have the defensive skills.
Different type of game.
Yeah, he had the shooting skills, however.
Yeah, they get Golden State again tonight. We'll see if they can pull it together and do better. And about the
Curry,
go ahead.
They talked about trying to defend Curry, and there are times when he's in that groove. What are you going to do? He's going to shoot and he's going to score, and there's really not a whole lot you can do about it. And
you could go find Guido and he could come out and kneecap him or something. You can get the Detroit Lions coach and tell him go out and bite him in the
bite his kneecap.
Bite his kneecap off and see what
If
happens.
you can catch him.
If you can catch.
No, but I mean, Curry is one of the finest basketball players I've ever seen, and one of the finest you've ever seen. It's just so when he gets rolling, he's tough to beat. He's tough to beat.
Tough to beat. Wild started off 4-1. Things were looking okay, pretty good, I guess. Then Cam Talbot got hurt, and I'm not blaming anything on the backup goaltender. But now the Wild, who I complained had to go out and play on the West Coast, probably should have stayed out on the West Coast because they're not playing well inside the XL Energy Center, which is, how do I say this nicely, which is the same crapola that went on last year. They did not play well at XL Energy Center. And I don't know what Dino is going to do as head coach, but he better figure out something pretty soon because this team's got to play better at home. And I know there's no fans there. And you're at home. Play hockey like you give a rip. The other night against San Jose, they let the former Wild players score easily and whatever else. Burnsy walks in and scores the game-winning goal. Donato, who they got rid of, scores the other night. I'm just like, come on, guys. We got to do better.
Well, and they have to. And I tell you, I'm just looking at on paper, there's nothing the matter with this hockey team. They just have to really come in. I mean, they got good goaltending, fair goaltending anyway, depending on the day. Yeah. And defensemen, I suspect, they've made some adjustments there, and they should be improving. But they are in every one of these games tight. They've not gotten blown off the ice. It's just that, boy, I'll tell you, the Kings and the Sharks have taken them to them the last few times. Who do they play? The Kings tonight?
Yeah, they got the Kings again tomorrow night, Thursday night. And the thing about it is, they really, as good as Kaprizov was the first few games, I think the other teams have figured out how to slow him down a little bit. He doesn't seem to be as explosive, as dynamic,
energetic
as he was. And the Wild really don't have a sniper, a scorer, a huge threat. I know everybody has their lulls and whatever else, but somebody whose hockey opinion I respect very much said this to me last night. The Wild are just good enough to be a point or two into the playoffs or a point or two out of the playoffs, and they'll end up with the number 10 or 12 or 14 pick again, and they'll get another run-of-the-mill player, quote-unquote, that's could not be as good as if they stunk, if they got the number 1 overall pick. And the Wild will just sit right there forever and ever, basically. And I can't say that he's wrong.
No, hey, they actually have the same model as the Timberwolves use.
Yeah. So.
But it's a tough thing to do, and I was hoping Kaprizov would come in and give the team, because they did need spark.
Yeah, and I still think he does. I think he's still dynamic. He's just got to find a way now to get through things and change up what he's been doing, and we'll see what happens. So.
Yeah. I'm going to keep an eye on him. I was afraid of this, but I had no indication that I was becoming a Wild fan, but I am. I now talk about it with my grandson, and we talk about this and that and another thing. And
that's good.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Broncos quickly.
Yes.
Girls basketball lost twice since we spoke the last time. Lost to a very good Masabi East team, 66-33. They're a double-A team. They lost to a very good Cherry team on Monday night, 77-49. Boys basketball lost to War Road last week, 79-42. Coach Rolando told me, wow, is War Road good. As bad as we played, he said, War Road is that good. And then they went on the road last night and beat Greenway 70-67. The boys did, and a little closer. They were up by 13 with about 10 minutes to go and had to hang on to win.
Ooh.
Boys hockey, 6-4 win over North Shore last week. That put them to 3-0. And somebody said, when's the last time the Bronco boys hockey team was 3-0?
Oh, wise.
Well, let's get out the history book. Last time they were 0-3 or 3-0, they was 07-08 when they had Jake Uso and Lad Korn and amongst others, Jace Baldwin and all those guys. Pretty good team. I think they went 23-4 that year before losing to Hibbing in the semis. And then the big thing came along. When was the time previous to that? So I'm flipping the pages. And I'm flipping the pages. And I go past the state championship in 95, and I'm like, oh, Bernsey never was 3-0. Get to Pops. And before I started looking, Bolstead said, we never went 3-0. He said, we always played somebody in the first 3 games that beat us. 77, 78. I said, you were 3-0, Mike. Oh, I don't remember that. So think about that. Only twice in the last 40-plus years have the Broncos been 3-0 in hockey. Holy cow, couldn't believe it.
Yeah, if you go back 10 years after that, they were 3-0 a lot.
They were 3-0 a lot. And then last night, Tuesday night, they lose to Hibbing 2-0, empty netter. Mitchell Nemec has been in net all 4 games. He was lights out again last night, guys. 28 out of 29 shots he faced, and the one that he led through somehow snuck through the 5-hole. I don't know if it deflected off of somebody else in front and changed directions, but I think somehow it got through the 5-hole, and it was a 1-0 hockey game. The Broncos just couldn't – they didn't look good offensively last night. So Thursday night they get Virginia, who is 2-2 on the season. Virginia probably one of the top 3 or 4 teams in the section, so the Broncos will have their hands full, but we'll see what
is that at home,
there. What's that?
Is that at home?
That is at Virginia. And if you're watching this show on Thursday, we're going to be on the air about 6:30 p.m. So
all right,
pick that up, and we'll be on K104 tomorrow. Girls hockey team only had 1 game in the last week. They lost to Detroit Lakes 5-0. And then the Bronco boys swimming and diving team has had 2 meets since the last time we chatted. They beat beat Chisholm last week down there 62-31 to get their first win of the season. And then they lost to Hibbing 108-67. And here's a little factoid for you. I went to put their score in to the history books that I take care of this morning. And when I went to type it in, I'm like, well, I should be able to scroll back a couple of years and find another Hibbing so I don't have to type it so I don't screw it up. I'll just copy and paste it. And I started scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. Guess the last time International Falls boys swam a duel against Hibbing?
It was in the 80s or something, a long time ago.
Yeah, maybe your wife was sneaking out because I put it out on the Facebook today. 82-83.
Wow.
It's been 38 years since the Broncos and the Blue Jackets have done a boys swimming and diving duel. How can that be?
Well, I think what happened is the Hibbing swim team was trying to elevate themselves and get into the top wide competition, and they figure if you're going to compete against the best, you have to, compete against the best. And I think that they just took that off.
I was stunned. I couldn't even believe it. Matter of fact, I looked into the records because I thought it had to be a typo. And we have only dueled against Hibbing 6 times. We're 0-6, but and then why did they duel us this year? They're still in the same boat, right? Well, why did we have a duel this year? Anyway, I just thought very interesting. I find those things in the head-scratching department, but anyway. So
yes, you do.
So the Broncos will continue to be busy. We've got some games coming up on the radio and, of course, on Channel 7. So stay tuned for all that. Follow along on my Bronco Facebook and Twitter pages. Or if you want to follow along with what the radio station is doing, you can do what they have on. And, of course, Darcy is busier than heck because every night it seems like she's got a game on Channel 7. So keep tuned into that. And then the other thing, I look at the clock over there. It's 5 o'clock on Wednesday evening. At 6 o'clock on Wednesday evening, so already in the past when you watch this, the new Bronco Classic Bronco Boys basketball game is on. And this week it's from the year 2000 when the Broncos played against Moose Lake Willow River in the playoffs down at UMD.
Down at UMD, I think I was there.
It was a heck of a ball game. I suspect a lot of people will remember that game and that season. And so That'll be on YouTube. Matter of fact, I checked just before we started recording this, and I'm going to see if it's there right now because we'll see if I refresh. Oh, there it is. It's up. It's been up for 17 minutes, so I'll get that posted out there, and your wife can like it and move it on.
There's going to be a lot of guys who are going to love this one, Tim.
So, of course, I had to get Derek Dowdy. Of course, we had our meetings today at school, and I told him it's going to be on. He said, well, I'm going to be watching it. And then, of course, I got hold of head coach Matt Urbanic, who's down at Jordan now, and I said, hey, this is going to be on YouTube. And he's like, well, I got to watch that. So, anyway, keep spreading the word, everybody. We had some fun. If you watch it, if you don't watch it, you would hear me say, oh, my gosh, it was at the end of the game, and I'm nervous. I said, that's how exciting it is. And I know what's going to happen. I know how it turns out. I know the final score. But I was nervous that somehow the Broncos, on tape, they weren't going to still pull it out. Anyway. So I suppose we got to wrap up by talking about the home run champ.
Well, I'll tell you, Tim, I do have a story that came down for me from my youth. But the first thing I did this afternoon was I went to the Wayback Machine and I got on to the 1957 World Series, and I had the highlights of every game, and I watched that this afternoon, and it was awe-inspiring. But I have to tell you this, 1957, I'm 9 years old, Little League baseball player, loved baseball like everybody else, collected cards, knew everybody doing it. There weren't that many ball players, there weren't that many teams, so you knew everything that was going on. And and I had an aunt, and she was a sports fan. And so she lived in Duluth, and she'd sneak out once in a while and jump on a bus and go down to County Stadium, Milwaukee, and watch the Milwaukee Braves were the team of the region. There were no twins.
Right.
Yeah. She'd go down there and she'd see a game. Well, she'd come back. One time she brought me a program, and I'm going through all the lists, and they're all there. And I mean, I don't even have to have a sheet here, but Lou Burdette, Del Crandall, Joe Adcock, Eddie Matthews, who else do we have down here? There was Bobby Thompson was on this team. Joey J was a young friend of mine. Let me see who the heck else was on this thing. Wes Covington was really a remarkable ball player. Anyway, I watched this and I started thinking. My aunt came, she showed me this program, and I says, did you meet these guys? She says, no, but this man was standing alongside, and if you take a look at County Stadium, the seats in the field are right next to each other, just like any other. And she says, we were walking out, and they were, the sportscasters were asking the questions and stuff, and I could hear him talk. And he says, he was the kindest, most humble man I had ever heard. And this was Henry Aaron. And I thought, now here's a woman that served in the Army in a segregated armed services. She grew up her entire life in a segregated country. And when I talked about, everybody went there to see Warren Spahn because he was absolutely everybody's favorite. And so, and Warren Spahn, a lot of these guys were World War II veterans and such, but they were at a dawn of racial integration that she was just able to put her fingers on. And she says, his name is Henry Aaron, and he's a fine gentleman. And I always thought, she told me this when I always went away in my mind with a picture of Henry Aaron, a fine gentleman. And over all the home runs, over all the miseries that he had to go through, which were many, all the name calling and everything else, I still remember Henry Aaron as a fine gentleman. Now, 1957, he was a fine gentleman that hit 44 home runs. And in 1957 World Series, he picked up 3 of them there. And there was also a lot of other people on there, Warren Spahn and Lou Burdette, who won the last game 5-0. They shut down the New York Yankees. And it had never really been done before, but that is my initial picture of of Hank Aaron, Henry Aaron, and he didn't like to be called Hank. But what truly remarkable man. And there's just a couple of things I want to, we talked about money earlier. Warren Spahn was the highest paid Brave on this team. He made $57,000. Eddie Matthews was second. He had $50,000. It went down. Henry Aaron was fourth. He made $22,000. Now there's guys that make that much in a game. It's just, and here it went right on, to Hawk Taylor, who was the bottom of the heap, and he made $5,000 off this game, off this team. So the money wasn't there. These guys really, really did play for the fun of it, for the love of it, and Henry Aaron was a very deep, committed man. We lost a dandy there. No two ways about it.
I have one nothing compared to what you just recollected. But of course, when he broke Babe Ruth's home run record and hit number 715 in April of '74, of course, I was a mere 4 years old, almost 4.5 years old, and didn't quite understand what was going on. And I'll never forget my mother. God bless her. She loves her basketball. She loves sports, but I didn't know how much she loved sports when I was 4.5. And she made sure that when the news came on, that she grabbed her 4.5-year-old son and she pointed to the TV and said, "Watch, this guy is going to break the record." So as the ball went over the fence, a 4.5-year-old is thinking that there's this LP record sitting out over the fence and that it's going to hit that record and it's going to break the record. Because that's the only record that I knew. That's the only way I understood that. So when he hit the ball over the fence, I'm kind of like, well, it didn't hit any record. It didn't break any record. And of course, years later, when you watched whatever sports memory show on TV, when we only had 4 stations, there was always Henry Aaron running around the bases after he hit number 715, and the people running around and whatever else. And so to me, that is the only hit that I can think that Hank Aaron ever hit. It's the only one that I have in my memory bank. That's really the only thing that I have, other than knowing that he hit 715 home. You know what I mean? That he got to 755, but he did that and he broke Babe Ruth's record. So for me, I was born a little late for that whatever. But yeah, when you think about what he did to hit that many home runs. And I know we say the same thing about Babe Ruth because he did it way back when, and some huge baseball parks, not like the ones that they play in now. Think about what those guys did with the equipment that they had, the bats that they had. It's incredible.
Oh, and he was blasting them 430 feet. I mean, he had some tape measure type deal. But this is what the man did in 1957. He had 44 home runs, 132 RBIs, and batted 322. And I think for the series, it was probably closer to 380. So if you want, and it's fun watching these guys. I mean, the Yankees, you forget that Mickey Mantle could really run. He was fast.
Okay.
And forget just how good a baseball player Yogi Berra was. He's on there in every play. And so here are all these fantastic childhood heroes, and I have to admit, I could not turn away. I couldn't take a break. I couldn't even put it on pause. These guys were that much fun to watch, and that's it. We're seeing the end of an era there.
So, somebody said this in the last few days, and I don't remember where, but they said he hit 755 home runs, and if you subtracted that from his hit total, he still had 3,000 hits.
He still had 3,000 hits.
Which everybody says is the benchmark for getting into the Hall of Fame. Well, think about that. He not only hit 3,000 singles, doubles, and triples, but he added almost 800 other home runs. And it's, you start putting that kind of stuff into perspective, and to think that he had, 42. What does Pete Rose have? 42, 92, or 40, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And to think that he's only 400 hits short of that. I mean, that was only a couple seasons, and it's incredible what he did.
If they ever show these old-time home run derbies,
had
Henry on there one time, and he has a batting glove, and they asked him, I see you wear a glove on one hand, and it was like construction, leather construction mitt, and he has that on there, and he says, yeah, sometimes when I practice, he'd get calluses or get blisters from batting practice, and so that's why he took to wearing this glove. And now you see anybody that doesn't use batting gloves,
Not many.
It's
many.
a fine man, and it was fun to take that little journey with the 1957 Milwaukee Braves. Now, that being said, I also have to make comment about the racial overtones. I mean, the announcer is saying the Braves are out to scalp the Yankees, and there was just, the Braves are hysteric, and all these just there were a couple of other ones I just think, no, we are victims of our time here, and I have to keep that in mind. But
right.
It is just a little bit embarrassing.
Yeah, there's things that you didn't even think twice about, and you said them all the time, or listen to them all the time, and so for sure
it is.
So, all right, anything else that you got on your?
I'm just going over my notes here. Let's see here. I think I have it.
All right.
What time? How much time have we gone here now?
Oh, well, we're nearing an hour.
Okay. Yeah.
You're all done. You got it all set up.
Well, my notes are taken care of.
All right.
Any questions to ask of me or anything like that?
Well, we haven't. Since we really started Zooming, we have not talked about what you've been listening to in the solarium or reading. So I think everybody deserves a little update on what's keeping you busy.
I'll tell you what, I just got done finished reading, and this was given to me as a gift, but the famous Joe Scarborough was writing about the beginning of freedom, or Harry Truman's Cold War. I just finished that, and I looked up, and I was all out of books, Tim, so I hurried and ordered up 3 more. And so I have a very fine historian, Margaret Macmillan, and she writes about the social consequences of war and some of the stuff like that. The other one is about a strong men, how authoritarian people, real light reading, authoritarian people come into contact. The other one is called Robert E. Lee and I, and it's a story, Robert E. Lee and Me. It's a story about a Southern man that has to come to grips with the lost cause of the South. I'm really looking forward to that book. It was kind of, it got some pretty good reviews, but nobody's really kind of heard of it. So we'll see what happens. But so I got 3 books coming in, and I have been, I found an old album, an old Rolling Stones album. There is, they had 2 albums, Hot Rocks and More Hot Rocks. Well, the More Hot Rocks goes back into some of the early 60s blues and rock and roll. And the other day, my wife and I were up there singing and playing the Rolling Stones and having a pretty good time. So I'm just picking up some old stuff. I've got some new music coming in. I've got a Willie Nelson who's singing Frank Sinatra songs. So I'm looking forward to that.
That is wow.
Anything else? No, there's a couple of other albums I can't remember up there that sometimes my taste turns to jazz, and I've been digging a little John Coltrane. So
sure.
There we are.
All right. Well, stay safe, George.
Okay. When are we going to talk again? Next Wednesday?
Yeah, we'll shoot for next Wednesday unless something else comes up. That's what we'll shoot for.
Okay. Hey, and I got to let you know, I'm in the lottery system. Both
you are. Congratulations.
So, there was 206,000 people that were in the lottery system for 8,000 shots. So,
so you got about a 1 in about 24 chance, if I did the math.
Okay,
no, it's 1 in 32. Sorry.
And I also saw a comment the other day.
It's not that much anyway.
It's math, the only subject that counts. You like that?
I love it. I love it. All right, everybody. We'll talk to you guys next week. Thanks
Take care.
for watching.